Grab us on Dreamcatcher Radio for the open window every Wednesday, 12 to 2, where you never know what you'll hear from the open window. We share stories, chat, music, and who knows, you'll just have to go and join us.
Okay, we are here with the open window. Actually, this is going to be a really fascinating episode for two reasons which interest me. Is that we've got an ex-police officer and a former alcoholic at the same time. And it really does fascinate me because it's two different subject matters. Someone that has personal and first-hand knowledge of being a police officer and someone that is what I believe would be best described as in recovery. So welcome, Steve, here on Dreamcatcher Radio.
Nice to be here.
Thank you.
Good to hear.
Thank you very much for joining us here today. Steve, now let's try and go back a bit in terms of your chapter of life, which I always like to do with guests. How old are you now, just out of interest first?
I'm 64 now.
64. Okay.
Yep.
And so you're 64 years old, wise. How did your career start? Not so much police, but in terms of being a young adult, what was your youth like and all that sort of stuff?
Well, a pretty normal childhood, I would say. My dad was a local policeman in Northumberland, and I did all right at school. I did want to progress further. My parents were a bit more, get a trade, earn a living, that sort of thing. And I became an engineer, which I didn't like. From the age of 16 to 20 years. Apprenticeship.
What sort of engineer did you become?
Electronics engineer.
Oh, right.
Parents wanted me to, well, at the time, going back 40 years, like computers were just very early days, really. And I thought it'd be good for me. Probably would have been good if I stuck with it, but it wasn't something I was interested in. So I left that at 20, and I messed around for about a year, did a bit of a market stall and did a little bit of traveling. And then at 21, I joined Northumberland Police from then. But I had quite a good childhood, pretty normal upbringing. But the Northumberland wasn't busy enough for me, to be fair. And 3 years later, I moved to London and joined the Met.
Right.
And that's
Okay.
how it went.
So your dad being a police officer, were you being driven down that path, or you just thought, actually, I would have aspired to be my dad?
Quite anti-police at the time, actually, because we lived in a police house in Northumberland, a place called Morpeth, which is right behind the police station, so surrounded by policemen. As a teenager, wasn't a rebel, but I played in the band, had long hair, that sort of thing, And I thought I could join that lot. But in the end, it turned out well for me. It wasn't something I chose when I was very young, it was something I drifted into, really. But in the end, I did quite well with it. But
Right.
I didn't see the future in there for very long, but it turned out it was my career, really. So I enjoyed it once I got in.
Yeah. Is it like, so do you say police house?
Yeah, but in those days, if you joined the police service, you were given a rent allowance to buy a house. My parents couldn't do that; they didn't have cash. Or you did live in a police house, like a tied house.
Right.
So it was part of the job. They don't exist now, but in those days, you join whatever age you joined, and you would be given it sounds like a bit of like a military house of these days,
Wow.
and that was the way.
When did that get abolished? When did that get abolished?
I would say about 15, 20 years ago, mainly. It was to encourage people to join, isn't they would have a house. Because, to be honest with you, police wages haven't been that good over the years. For shift work and that sort of thing. To encourage people to join, basically, it's part of the job. It's a bit like the job package.
Like you say, like the military and that sort of stuff. I didn't know that. Actually, it's the first time I heard that.
Oh, yeah.
I heard quite a few police officers on the radio.
The odd few or in very rural areas, but not many at all now. They just sold a lot off.
Right, okay. So you become a police officer. How does that work in terms of what age did you become a police officer?
Start 21, which is pretty young. You can join legally on 19. Went to a training school in North Yorkshire called Dishforth, which going straight from home to this wild and breezy place was a bit of a shock to the system, really. So I did basic training there, which is basically a lot of PT, then the basic law and that sort of thing. And then
Okay.
got super fit.
So the
Yeah,
personal training in terms of exercise and fitness,
yeah.
what laws did he actually teach you? Because a lot of people will say that police officers don't even know the law.
Well, they teach you the basics in three sections, really. Sort of, well, crime, theft act, that sort of thing. And you go deeper into it with deceptions and all that sort of thing, which you very rarely use, to be fair. And then they will teach you, obviously, traffic law and, car tax, insurance. You deal with mock accidents, that sort of thing. And then other general purpose things like public order, how to deal with domestic violence, and then you move on to maybe shield training and that sort of thing, riot training and stuff like that. So you cover everything really in short bursts over a sort of 10-week period it was then. But it's a bit longer now, the training. But it was all in house then. But I think they break it down a little bit more now. It was good once you got into it, and you get a group of friends really, people you've never met before. You become friends for life. It's like the military again, really. It runs sort of parallel to that. I
Yeah.
did enjoy it.
The I'm just oh geez. The sorry about that. Someone was calling in at the same time. The in Hendon, which is the area I live, it's not too far different. It's now 13 weeks, which is
Okay.
quite a short period of time, isn't it, really, before you get on the beat, so to speak. Now, I don't know this. You're obviously older and wider than me. Um, do they treat you like hobbies on the beat kind of thing, or how did it work back then?
You go on as a mister, and then when you've passed the basic training, they call you PC, basically. But the basic training is only a very small part of it because you're actually on probation for 2 years,
Right.
where any time within that 2 year period, if you mess up, they can dismiss you without reason. So the probationary period is quite tight. So you monitor very closely. So when you finish your basic training, you do what's called like a street duties course when you go with an older PC or maybe a sergeant for a while, do some patrol, learn the basics of things. They put you on each different shift, earlys, lates, and nights, and then you get monitored through all of that.
So would that
And
be on foot or in vehicles?
generally on foot initially, but
Wow.
you get a spell. You tend to get a little bit of a look at each department as well. Maybe a little bit in traffic, a little bit in CID, and all that sort of thing. You get an overall view of the whole job in a way, really. So that 2 year period, you're very, very closely monitored. And as I say, if you don't get up to scratch, a lot of people don't like shift work. A lot of people drop out during that period because they don't want the hassle of getting what I would class as a punch on the nose, which you're going to get if you're dealing with people who don't want to be arrested. They want to get away, and they'll do anything to get away from you. So you've got to toughen up and harden up a little bit for that. A lot of people don't want that. And if
Right.
they're a bit older, they're a bit older, they're already married, and the partners can't stand the shift work and all that sort of thing. So not that many people actually stick it out.
So when you went onto the course, were they started at specific periods of time? Like, for example, we got one in March, one in, I don't know, June, one in
Oh,
September.
your basic training you get every 3 months or so, like a
Oh,
refresher week. Yeah. But all through that 2 years, you're on a monitored training package.
right.
So you
How many,
constantly no changes.
how many people would drop out?
My class, probably about 30%, I would say.
Oh, okay.
And some people would be weeded out because they were turning up late or they weren't performing basically. You've got to be suited to it. So
It's not for
that's
everyone.
no, not at all. Especially shift work,
Mm.
because the shift work is very tiring when you're finishing late and starting early, that sort of thing, and you're getting the rest. And your whole day or whole evening can be completely messed up. You get a cold day on a Friday when you're supposed to be off and all that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
you could live the job, if that makes sense.
Okay. I'm sure you probably remember this because I know a
Yeah.
few police officers. What was your first arrest?
It was a guy for drunk and disorderly, actually. It was domestic in Northumbria. And I was fighting with his wife. I went out with my tutor. constable, as it were, was a guy who'd been ex-SPG, which is, well, the Special Patrol Group. A lot of people remember that, which was the sort of riot-trained fitter mob that used to drive around in vans, 10 or 12 of them. He'd come off that, but he's still very fit. I can't remember his name now, but he was a very, very fit lad. I went to this domestic about 1 o'clock in the morning, and this guy had assaulted his wife and was just a drunk disorderly. He's a very violent chap, remember that. And the first arrest is very nerve-wracking, to say the least. Once you get in the handcuffs, and you've got to do all the paperwork, doing the paperwork slow and all that sort of thing. But I still remember going back all those years, 40 years, 40, 43 years now.
Did he
And
did he gift you the arrest and said, "You arrest him, not me"? Or
exactly, yes. I like the word "give you." They just give you the, yeah, that's yours, because he didn't want to do the paperwork. You see,
how much
in the end,
paper? Go on, sorry. Go on, Steve.
no, that's what I did in the end. When you get a bit more experience, you just give it to the probationer. You see, you're on probation, you have it. I can't be bothered with all the paperwork. That's all.
Yeah. So the person that's arresting somebody has to do the
Yeah,
paperwork. And in terms of paperwork, just for the sake of we're at that stage, how much does
yeah,
it change from when you first started to where you're at when you left?
massive, massively. For that case, you just write a statement out saying on the 5th of March, whatever date, 1985, I arrested John Smith for drunk disorderly. He smelled of alcohol, that sort of thing. Then it became everything duplicated and antecedents, all these sort of things. And especially if you had a crime arrest, it was a couple of forms, and I went to 5 forms, 10 forms, and then the CPS came along. They wanted more information, and it got out of control, basically, the paperwork. And then it computerized it all to make it easier, and that was a problem itself. People spend more time on courses trying to learn a new system than they were on the street. So paperwork was a big factor, yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay. And was justice better back then than it was when you left? How in your mind, how do you think it?
The court system didn't seem to be plugged as much. Things were smoother from memory. I don't think there's much less crime. Crime's different now, isn't it? It just seemed to be everything was easier then. Everything's more monitored now. It's a lot of statistical things now. And police got body cams on, get more complaints. The job was easier, and I think the courts dealt with things more swiftly, bit more,
And
but more.
do you think the job was slightly easier then, or easier, using your words, is
Yeah,
because people had respect for the police, citizens?
yeah, I think that's a big factor in that as well. You're always going to get a section of people, general public, who will always be anti-police for whatever reason. But people, especially youngsters, don't have any respect these days. It's not just me getting old that. It's just I just see that every day, whether it's in the media or being on the streets. But I moved to London after that. I was in London a few months ago. I didn't see many police at all in the streets of London. There used to be hundreds of you in the West End, but not now. The same in Northumberland. I mean, I'm in Newcastle area now. You very rarely see a Bobby on the beat. Pretty rarely. I don't know where they've all gone, to be fair.
Yeah. Where I live, you do see them, but it's only on school runs,
Right.
where children are getting on and off buses because that's generally when the most chaos is caused. But in
Yeah.
London specifically, I see a lot of police cars roaming around. There's
Yeah.
lots of unmarked police cars, that's for sure. I see them a lot.
Big
Um,
increase in.
but Bobby's on the beat, pounding the pavements. No, it
Pretty,
doesn't.
yeah. When I was in West End as a sergeant, we used to patrol Regent Street, Soho, Mayfair, and put 30 or 40 people on foot.
Mm,
You once,
no,
just in that quite small area, really.
no. What I've noticed as well is that they when you do see police, specifically in London, because obviously
Yeah.
that's a densely populated area, but it's
Yeah.
mainly for tourists, um,
Is it?
to making sure that they know they're safe. Um, but
Just the
that's
tour.
what,
It's not the money, isn't it? Keep the area safe, keep it clean, and keep it tidy.
yeah. But the problem is there's still a lot of crime. There's a
Oh
lot
God,
of
yeah,
crime.
yeah. And even with
The
CCTV,
What's the politics like in policing? I hope we can talk about this sort of subject matter because I hear all sorts of stories. I have actually have a co-presenter on one of my shows who's actually a former police officer, and he's not even candid actually. Um, he was only there for a couple of years, so he's not got as much service as yourself. But what's the politics like in policing?
Um, it's it used to be quite open, and now it's very much. If you step out of line, it's not a very cohesive unit anymore. People are quite willing to drop others in it, if that makes sense. It's run now, I think, more by people who have come in maybe with a degree and gone straight at the top and don't really have a lot of experience on the street.
I heard that. I heard that. So instead of actually getting work experience, is that you can
Yeah,
go to college and become a superintendent or an intendant or
you see, direct entry has always been about. It's called Bramshill, where certain people, because it's still the class system, as you're quite well aware. You can't um, get above really where you were born, what you were born into. I still don't think you can. That's my personal view. I mean, I met a girl. I'm not going to name names, but years ago when I was in South London, and I was PC then, and this inspector said, could look after her. I don't know what he meant really, and I said, eventually the dad's in the police force, isn't he? He said, oh yeah. Eventually I got over, and I said, oh, he's the chief constable. The next time I saw her, she was very high up in the Met, so there's still that sort of thing.
and why do you think she got so high up?
Connections. Father was chief constable. She was no better or worse than any other officer, to be fair. I
Right.
think it opens door. People at the top will know the next policy change, the next maybe how the exam system is going to be run, that sort of thing. That's not me being bitter. I mean, I did all right. It's just it's sort of but that's how it flows really in society, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it is in any corporation. It's who you know and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The and what arse is that you lick as well. I guess in when you what sort of level did you leave at?
Not inspector.
Okay, inspector. And what's the difference between constable and inspector?
Too right. Then you go from PC, work your way up to sergeant, and then you buy your exam system in those days, which was a competitive exam. Now, I was in the top 100 out of 2,500 people. I came 21st, so in the top 1%. And I got selected for an interview for this accelerated promotion. It's quite a funny story, this. So I went along, it was a 2-day interview with Home Office Minister and various senior ranks. And I didn't get the accelerated promotion. And on my um, feedback form, it said Sergeant Curry has limited vision and is dour even by northern standards. Now, that was a bit discriminatory, but that was back in the day, say, I was in my mid-20s.
What was that? No, Nolan's that.
He said lacks vision and is dour even by northern standards.
Oh wow, lacks
Yeah,
vision by northern standard. So basically, saying you're a dipshit.
yeah, a bit of a dope. And so now I could maybe take them to a proud tribunal, but it's a bit late now, isn't it? Yeah. That's the north-south divide for you, isn't it, really? And,
I'm
and
sorry, I'm sorry for
had
laughing.
this, had this chat with Home Office Minister as well, and he said, because he always, if they say, don't tell lies on these promotion boards, and I didn't read the newspaper really, and he said, what newspaper do you read? I said, oh, the Telegraph, just makes me look a great big paper, isn't it? And he said, who's the sports editor? Just to
No
look at the
way. Is that
yeah, so
true? He asked you
yeah,
what newspaper you read and who's the
yeah.
sports editor.
And then another question
And that's the measure of being a prospective
you know,
candidate.
yeah, yeah. And then the other thing he said to me, and I thought it was quite the thing by me and my ex-wife used to go travel drive out to Northern Italy and have quite good holidays. And He said, "Where do you go on holiday?" I said, "Oh, you've travelled all over, you know." I said, "Where?" I said, "I've got to Northern Italy." I thought it was quite good at the time. 40 years ago, it was quite a thing, you know. And I found out later the guy who got one of the places had climbed Everest. So it's
Oh,
a bit like,
so more close
um,
to home.
so there you go. I
How
just,
funny.
I was weeded out by my social class, I believe.
But even also, Steve, I don't know what you think, but government ministers, in my perspective, are pretty
Yeah,
much plebs, quite a lot of them, and
yeah,
they're they're interviewing you, which know
yeah,
nothing about policing on the street.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's the problem, isn't it? You know, it's like the government at the moment. I mean, the government, I feel, should, you know, to have an expert in each discipline, not just butterflying from one department to the next.
Yeah,
It's
that's
kind
the thing that happens. They call it government reshuffles and all that sort of jazz. But and then basically government ministers get sacked, then they get re-employed again as well. Look at Peter Mandelson, for Christ's sake.
in a different department. You know, I mean, the guy, I can't remember his name now, during COVID, he wasn't a doctor, was he?
He was a
Like
young
a,
kid. But what's his name again? I can't remember his name.
like,
He
like,
wound me up like anything.
and me. And me, I think we're on the same page with that. Yes, strange folk.
The one that left his wife in the end. But he's gone
Yeah.
on to a great job.
Will
Um,
do.
the
Don't end
and his
up,
missus is very wealthy as well. Um,
yeah, they don't end up bins, do they? They always do all right.
yeah, I think that's
That's
the benefits of being in government, isn't it?
good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You made for life on you.
Oh,
Yeah, so that was
yeah, Matt Hancock. That's it.
that's him. Yeah, my uncle. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, who got caught kissing his mistress or
that's
whatever.
right.
The
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, what happened during COVID was shocking. And actually, on that point, you brought this up now. What
yeah.
did you think about the policing during COVID with all the protests and people saying no and
To be
getting
honest with you,
arrested?
because of my alcoholism, as it were, I was in hospital all that time for
Really?
COVID. Yeah, well,
Did
roughly
you watch
2019.
any? Did you watch any TV or anything? No.
A little bit, yeah. I didn't really. I was quite ill during that sort of time between 2019 2021. So I was admitted to hospital in October 2019, and then COVID broke in the UK. I think it was January 2020, and I was in the hospital really, and my main focus was then to get well. So I didn't really have that much interest in it, if that makes sense. So I
Yeah.
was really, really that off with my liver issue then.
Mm.
So I haven't really looked into it that much, but it seemed to
Okay.
be a hell of an issue with the lockdown. I know that, but it didn't affect me that much. I was in the NHS.
Have you learned
As it was
anything since about all the people that got arrested, like elderly people and all that sort of stuff?
a
Um,
little. I
about
mean,
were protesting about the vaccine and all that sort of stuff.
yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I didn't have the vaccine. I'm not sure if you did, but it seemed to be very
Yeah, I did
strange.
actually. I did two. And then they asked for a third, and I thought actually there's still no data sheets on it, and I'm hearing all this bad stuff,
Right.
so I
Yeah.
didn't do it anymore. But I did two. Friends of mine didn't do any.
My daughter didn't know. She said it might interfere with fertility and that sort of thing. Uh, it was a bit of a. Every people follow like sheep sometimes, don't they? People had
Well,
it
the thing
because
is, I needed to travel, and I wasn't allowed to travel without the vaccine documents. And in
yeah,
hindsight, I wish I didn't, to be honest, because we
yeah.
don't know what. I mean, there's so much lawsuits going around that sort of
Well,
situation.
it tested was it?
Pardon?
Wasn't properly tested the vaccine. It takes years
Well,
to test a vaccine.
yeah, that's ordinarily what would happen.
Yeah,
But everybody backed it and that sort of thing. But the lawsuits around the world, literally around the world, are horrific. Um, Surrounding the vaccines, but they're looking at doing new vaccines now as well. Um, so the when I took the vaccine, normally when you take medication, they give you like a fact sheet and that sort of stuff.
yeah,
When
yeah.
you open the fact sheet, it was blank.
Because there were no facts.
There was
Yeah,
nothing.
no, I
It
can
was
imagine.
blank.
Yeah,
You know, they said nothing. But I think we were just mules, basically, and cannon fodder, in my opinion.
a lot of people got really ill after that.
Yeah, I mean, you got one of our own presenters who claims that he's suffered MS on the back of the vaccine.
Imagine. Yeah, I don't know if you
The
remember that. The doctor, so his senior consultant, came out publicly. I think it was from sports or somewhere, and he said, "I'm not going to have it." He had a sort of toe-to-toe argument in a way with Hancock, and it was broadcast for a short while, and then it was taken down. I think. Some of
yeah,
the senior doctors.
there's also one thing that's really interesting as well is that there's videos of ministers going to take the vaccine, right?
Yeah,
And they've actually caught them where they've not actually taken the vaccine, even though it
100%.
looks like they took the vaccine, but the
Beginning,
cameras shown that they didn't actually take it.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I
No,
mean,
it's
when
true. I've seen them. I've seen the videos.
really, I do agree, totally. I mean, you could still travel by private airplane. You could still bring your private yacht into port.
Yeah, quite. Yeah.
Also, what amazed me, but at the end of it all, I was at the hospital, feeling a bit better then. The fact that you saw next Thursday take the masks off. What's all that about? It's just disappeared, you know. I've got no faith in what happened there. Like I say, I was quite shielded by it all, and the fact I was in hospital most of the time. But
Mm.
some stories come out about it.
But a lot of
Terrible.
people died, though. A lot of people died. I kind of, I don't want to have the conspiracy hat on. The is that I question whether it was intentional or not because there's so many poor decisions made and billions. I mean, even the NHS app, 46 billion for that app. How could you
Wasted.
spend that much money in a short space of time for nothing?
I'm a bit like you on this. I don't think it was all there, as it were, what's going on.
Mm.
Because too many variables. There was too much confusion, and it was all a bit. I just didn't. It certainly wasn't for me. I was told because of my medical issues at the time to take the vaccine. I said no, I just flatly refused. I thought,
Yeah.
ill enough. Okay, that's past now. But yeah, it's a complicated one. That
Yeah. Go back to policing then. Um, when you we're going to go on to what I want to talk about, but we're on the policing subject.
yeah.
When you come into, like, for example, in the morning or evening,
Uh-huh.
whatever your shifts are and that sort of stuff, do you
Yeah.
get told what to do or?
Um. Well, generally, let's go from an early turn. 6:30 West End Central, which is obviously it's closed now. That was just off Regent Street, New Burlington Street, and we go Central London, just behind Regent Street. 6:30, we'd go into a parade room and have a list of special events. Maybe there's a royalty visit, 10 a.m., that sort of thing, or there's some anniversary of some disruption overseas or something which may kick off in central London. You have a list of special events, but most people you'd have the number of beats. Say it's split into eight beats in three cars. You put the drivers in one car, two people in a van, and somebody on the GP general purpose car, and then you put all the other walkers, like say 20 or 30 of them, just on different beats. And it's quite simple, really. You just John, you're on A, beat, you're on B, B beating so on. And then you just give them separate refreshment times, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, that sort of thing. And then maybe there's a school crossing patrol in Mayfair to do, or like I say, a royalty visit to cover, or an armed post at El or something. So it's quite simple to do that. And people would just do their own thing, basically. Then the control room would monitor everything. And if you got 9 calls coming in, we'd go straight to Scotland Yard and then be fed out by the local station to individual officers who's nearby, Burberry's or Hamleys or whatever, that sort of thing. So it's quite, once everyone was paraded, I mean, they're quite responsible people, policemen. They were left their own devices, to be fair, and that's the way it went. Really, there wasn't anything complex in it, really. So,
Yeah. And when you were on, for example, this always intrigues me, to be honest, the when I speak to other police officers, because they seem so
yeah,
chewed up about it, is when they get towed on a 999 call.
yeah,
Um, quite often the details they get is very limited. The and you need to go on all blues. And what is it like being in that situation? I mean, is it exciting or is it like, oh man, what am I going to do now?
It can be, but it's rare, very rare you turn up at a live incident, shall we say, where there's been a robbery and the person's still around.
Yeah.
Normally fled the scene. By the time the call gets routed through Scotland Yard and he gets fed up, I mean, you have two radios on the vehicles, one from Scotland Yard and one to the local station. By the time the call gets routed out, crime's been done, really, to be fair. I mean, I arrested somebody for murder, or two people for murder. Only felt that was from a vehicle stop. A lot of crime comes from vehicle stops.
You blow my
Um,
thunder. I was going to ask you what's the best arrest you made. Anyway, talk about that.
oh,
Go on.
right, okay. Well, the strange thing, I'm going to ask Paul this. A lot of, let's say, larger offences come from very small offences. So, say somebody parks on a double yellow line. There tend to be something in that. I don't know what it is. I remember I was in Lewisham at the time, South London. I saw this car in a queue of traffic. It didn't have a tax disc. I don't know if you remember, tax discs used to be on cars. I don't have them anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it was way out of date. So I pulled this car over. I was just on my own. People knew I'd come from Northumberland. I thought it was a country bumpkin. Anyway, I did this check on this vehicle and they sent a couple of other units to me. I thought it was a bit strange. I would check this vehicle. It turned out it would be stolen. And two of the occupants of the car had murdered a guy in Scotland during an armed robbery. So, and another guy was already wanted for murder. That was the best arrest. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. So it came
Wow.
from one vehicle, from one vehicle stop. So just having that tax disc not displayed turned a much bigger thing.
Mm.
And that's what happens. A lot of people show out. If they've got this attitude, I don't give a toss about the law, they will do something which is very minor, but will lead to something else. Because decent people tend not to park on a double yellow line or on a zebra crossing. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
mean,
disregard minor things that you find there's a lot of people just something behind that. There's a story behind the story, if that makes sense. That was a good arrest, that, yeah. Murder
the
and robbery.
and okay, fine. We've got about 3 minutes left. Can you give me another great story like that?
Similar one was a guy who had well, two guys who'd been done for a burglary, and I was hoping to get on the CID and managed to trace them just through an informant friend of mine who I knew from being the boozer, and he had a bit too much drink that night, and he pointed out this guy in the pub, and I was off duty at the time, and we ended up in a big fight in the pub because I hadn't had time to radio through the station. That was quite an interesting one. I had lots of arrests, which I can't even remember the circumstances, but I was quite a busy person. One thing I will say on the arrest front, when I was a young sergeant, I was very active. The arrest and appeal, I got pulled in by this young superintendent once, and he said, Sergeant, he said, I see your arrest rate's very high. You're accruing a lot of overtime. I said, yeah. He said, what I need you to do is let the troops, the PCs, arrest people. And I said, well, I like to lead from the front. It's good for morale, you know. And he said, I need you to push from behind. And from that moment on, I sort of lost a bit of interest in the job, to be fair. It's a funny thing to say, isn't it?
It is. It's
Until you
like,
really...
you need to work bottom up or top down. It doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, you just think that you should be, leading from the front. But that was his attitude. Another one of these people coming at the top, you see, and not really done the grassroots
Mm.
payment work, as it were, you know, on the street. But yeah, I enjoyed my time. But like I said, I had an issue with an old injury, and I came out in the end.
I got
I
one
do.
final. No, I'm going to save my final question. The final question on policing. Actually, I'm going to write it
Yeah.
down. Now I asked you for a couple of songs.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember them. Do you want to introduce your first song? If not, I'll remind you.
Yeah, it's You Too, A Beautiful Day.
All right, we're going to play that now.
The heart is a blue, shoots up through the stony ground. There's no room, no space to rent in this town. You're out of luck, and the reason that you had to care, the traffic is stuck, and you're not moving anywhere. You thought you found a friend to take you out of this place, someone you could lend a hand in return for grace. It's a beautiful day. Sky falls, you feel like it's a beautiful day. So let it get away. You're on the road, but you've got no destination. You're in the mud, in the maze of her imagination. Your love is down, even if that doesn't ring true. You've been all over, and it's been all over you. It's a beautiful day. So let it get away. It's a beautiful day. Touch me, take me to that other place. Teach me, I know I'm not a hopeless case. See the world in green and blue. See China right in front of you. See the canyons broken by cloud. See the tuna fleets clearing the sea out. See the bedroom fires at night. See the oil fields at first light. And see the bird with a leaf in her mouth. After the flood, all the colors came out. It was a beautiful day. So let it get away. Beautiful day. Touch me, take me to that other place. Reach me, I know I'm not a hopeless case. What you don't have, you don't need it now. What you don't know, you can feel it somehow. What you don't have, you don't need it now. Don't need it now. It was a beautiful day.
Catcher Radio.
Dreamcatcher Radio is about capturing and creating dreams through music, chat, and debate. Empowering expression, enriching society. A go-to place for unsigned musical talent. A radio station which listens to its audience. Free speech, vibrant, engaging. Stream worldwide 24/7. Events, competitions, promotions. Always keen to have a listening ear. Contact us. hello@dreamcatcherradio.com.
Catcher Radio.
Okay, we are back. Now, thanks for that song, Steve. Now, Steve, I just want to ask.
Yep.
And what? There's no better way of me asking you, actually. Does police corruption exist?
Yes.
In what form?
Um, I didn't see it from the top. Um, Corruption as in maybe people getting tipped off years ago about raids to premises. Um, because some things didn't always line up, if that makes sense. I think the gifts and things you receive from retailers seem to be part of the thing in the West End. You know, drinks and things that leave at the front counter for the senior officers, that sort of thing. Discounts on food and things if you eat in restaurants, especially if you're on duty, a lot of free things. Um, but you count that as corruption. I don't know. I was at the sort of very junior level, really. You know, PC, sergeant, inspector. You don't see what goes on in the upper echelons of it all.
So
But,
sergeant and inspector, that's like low level, is it?
well, it is compared to chief superintendent and commanders and above. You know,
Right.
better in charge of a shift, basically.
And was there rumours of corruption above?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the Mets always had a bit of a name, and a lot of people got arrested in the 70s and 80s. And I didn't deal with anything myself at that level, but I mean, there is temptation, isn't there? I remember going to a sudden death once, and some young PC had called me up when I was a sergeant and said, this guy died in his flat in Marylebone section. I think it was just on there. It was just over our board anyway. And he must have had, well, a massive amount of cash in this flat he was living in. It would have been easy to take it, but we didn't take it, obviously. I'm not the way inclined. Wouldn't have been jealous of anybody. But you can see what happened, or what could have happened. But I know of a case, I'll not mention names, where a sergeant, he seemed to be living above his means. He had a huge sports car. It went top of the range BMW when most policemen had a Ford Capri or, you know, Ford Escort. And we used to have this private underground car park in Soho. And we always wondered where he got all this cash from. And they did a setup on him where the somebody handed him a briefcase with £200 in and set a surveillance squad on him. And he took the briefcase into the station. There was only £50 in it. You know, he'd been taking money from there and he'd been taking money from the safe and all that sort of thing. That's straightforward theft, isn't it, really? But corruption at different levels I didn't witness. But there were a few people dismissed because of crime. Definitely.
Hmm. I'm just done a little quick Google,
Yep.
and in 2024,
Uh-huh.
it says a word around the
Yeah.
1,500 officers
Yeah.
basically left the police force over voluntary or basically by dismissal for corruptions and not meeting the standards.
Yeah. Yeah.
1,500. Yeah.
Some of the standards might be professional standards, as in not following up inquiries, not
Mm.
doing the job, that sort of thing. But whether it was straightforward corruption, I haven't witnessed that much. But there was certainly officers dismissed for theft and things like that. Because you're in a position of responsibility on you. It's quite easy to cross that line if you're that way inclined, I suppose.
Well, the thing is, you've got so many statutes as police officers you need to follow as well. That's going to be so difficult. That's what I meant by when I asked you, do you understand the law? Because you've got so much. I mean, you talk
Oh no,
about pace. Pace itself is just not a simple booklet.
oh no, yeah, a little red book came out in 1984, and it was so difficult to try and get around it. Um, no, I agree. Yeah, it's a complex in the law, and you know, 10, 13, 20 weeks of basic training and a couple of years on the street doesn't really equip you very well to stand in the old Bailey against some senior barrister, does it?
Yeah, and also nowadays with social media and people throwing cameras in your face and all that sort of stuff, the which I'm not too sure if it's a good thing or bad thing. I think it's a good thing. The that basically things are monitored by the public. The But it makes things very pressurized it makes it the policing sterile, and that's the bit that bothers me.
Yeah, I was gone by that time, really. 21 years ago, 23 years ago, sorry. So that's been the last sort of 10, 20, 15 years, hasn't it? But body cams have helped a little bit with the police. But you're always going to get a situation where if you're trying to arrest somebody, it can look from different angles. If they've been assaulted, they might be assaulting you and all that sort of thing. So it's probably a good thing, but it can be skewed a little bit with the cameras. But I think policemen themselves are a little are a little bit hesitant to get involved too much now, which causes us problems anyway, doesn't it? In itself. And that,
Yeah. And the one thing that I find really interesting as well is how body cam footage goes missing quite regularly when there's a serious complaint made.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. The phrase is "there's a rabbit off." Have you ever heard of that?
What is
I mean,
it?
there's a rabbit off.
What?
It's
What
not,
is that?
it just means there's something wrong here. This
Right.
doesn't add up. Rabbit off there.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
we just add. When you hear stories all over the country, all over the world, where a person's had a gun and then it can't be found, all this thing, sort of things, especially in the States and stuff like that. There's been cases here, isn't it, where some suspect's been stopped with a firearm. The firearm's gone missing for 2 days and all this sort of thing. Doesn't happen, does it really?
Well, in real life fiction. Um, just out of interest, and this is a loaded question, really, and the if you're told a narrative as a investigating officer,
Yeah.
you just follow that narrative?
Not always. I mean, you're there. It's different service, isn't it? You're there to follow orders, aren't you?
Mm,
But you have got some discretion.
right. But genuinely, in order to protect your pension and the job, would you follow the narrative that's being directed to you?
Personally speaking, I think most people would.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the latter end of your career, um, where you started experience alcohol. How did it all first start? I'm guessing you didn't do drugs, right?
No, I didn't actually. I didn't even smoke. Funny enough, there's plenty of
Right.
opportunities. I knew plenty of people who took cannabis and things like that. I mean, do you want
What
me to go from
in the police force?
yeah, off duty? Um, um, but I mean, my drinking started in my teens, and then when I joined the police at 21, I was pretty young, like I say. I always liked to drink, and I was then mixing with people who were older, more seasoned drinkers. And the police, I don't know if you've ever seen the series Life on Mars. It's
No,
a
I
bit of a
haven't, unfortunately. Yeah.
who wants to watch it. But policing in get this guy goes back in time really, at the 80s and when the Sweeney was about and that sort of thing. Set in Manchester, very interesting. But when I started drinking heavily in my 20s, it seemed everyone else did. That's not a reason for getting into trouble. And then obviously when I moved to London, I loved the London pubs. The
So that'd be
pubs, I didn't have
1980s, wouldn't it?
80s, yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So
yeah, I know.
I was in the West End of London, just a young man really, had a few quid, and I was married by then, caused a few issues, but I still loved the pubs, and I was fit enough to sort of bat it all off. Really, everyone seemed to drink. But I remember some crazy times where we used to get 1 week, end up in 4 and finish at 2:30 on a Thursday. In those days, there was a police club nearby, and there was a place called Trenchard House in Soho near Berwick Street Market, if you know it. And there was a bar in there. And people hit that bar at 2:30 on a Thursday, and then maybe drink all
What
day.
was there many of you?
Most of the shift would go, maybe 30, 40 people.
Really? Wow.
Because we had a long weekend, you see. So you'd be off from Thursday at 2:30 until the following Monday night duty at 10:30. So it was a bit of an excuse to get hammered, as it were. And they used to call it the Thursday Club. So we'd all pile in there and people would have a few too many and then go to clubs and all sorts of carry on. What happened then? And I used to tend to use that weekend as a bit of a binge time.
Yeah.
A lot of us did. And it didn't seem out of place. Senior officers were drinking. We used to go over to France for the day sometimes, a little day trip, and we had days off during the week, and everyone would be drinking on the coach. And the first one I went to was 6 o'clock in the morning, starting this coach. There was beer on the coach. Drank all day in Cali, came back, then went back to the police club on the way back, and 24 hours on the booze. And it all
Yeah.
seemed like the lads and the policewomen having a good time. No wonder my wife was going crazy. Um, and it wasn't until I was a bit older I started to realize it was
So just remind me, what age was that?
um, mid to late 20s, 27, 28
So he's
ish.
married by 27, 28.
Oh, yeah, I was married pretty young. I was married when I was 23.
Are you still with the same woman now or not?
Oh,
Okay. All right. Fine. Carry on with the story then. So
yeah,
you're,
so I started to feel a bit as if it was causing me issues. I got a lot of anxiety in the underground, that sort of thing. And then when I was 30, I passed the inspect exam. Don't know how, 'cause I was still hungover. Um, and then my daughter was born. So for a long 7 years of marriage, children, so it was easy to recover. The ex-wife used to live, sorry, not live, legally, but work in a different area. So I had a lot of freedom then. And when you got a baby on board, the pressure of the family unit, um, made it much worse for me to get over the booze, and I started to get a lot of side effects with it, other withdrawals and things. I didn't have time to sleep it off, if that makes sense.
mm.
And I started to maybe drink to recover, and that's when it really kicked in. And I just functioned best I could, really.
So basically, what you because people suffer from things like the shakes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
But what you're saying is that from my understanding
yeah,
of this sort of situation, is that you actually in your mind you believe you need alcohol just to hair of the dog, so to speak.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, I didn't do that at work. I just battled through the day. As soon as I finished, I was so desperate to get a drink, desperate. And then the latter part of my service, I started to take the odd extra day annual leave and that sort of thing. Um, and you feel it creeping into your life. But we just went every part of your life, and
mm,
especially anxiety with me. I got very anxious when I was, having to do a few days in a row, or when I had to be reliable, as it were. It took my whole life in the end. So work I found work more difficult then because you can't concentrate properly when you're hungover.
yeah.
Um, when I retired quite early in life, when I was 40, got divorced, and it was just spiraled out of control then.
So let's
But
go back.
certainly,
Let's go backwards a little bit more. The So when you were drinking, right? Were you drinking on shift?
no,
Never.
shit, no. Um, he was still under the radar then.
Yeah.
I did a couple
Were
of
other
obs.
people drinking on shift?
Some people were, yeah, yeah. I remember going back even further now when I went into Northumberland because I got a driving course quite young, and I went to take over a night duty on this car, and I heard these bottles clanking underneath the seat, and the driver had been drinking bottles of brown ale or something, but he'd been driving, you know. So, and I've no doubt a lot of people were driving in the mornings after they'd had a heavy session,
Mm.
going over, would have been over the limit, without a
And,
doubt.
and and was it like men, women, or what's the proportionality of it all?
Both really, mainly men, because there's obviously more male than female officers, but
Mm.
the women used to be on as well. I don't know whether
And
just, but just the 80s was a mad time, and 90s.
yeah, I suspect it's not too different now, though, to be honest. But in terms of like senior officers, they knew about
Yep.
this. They knew about the club and venue and where you
Oh
met,
yeah,
all this sort of stuff.
used to go.
They used to go as well, yeah.
When I was was it PC? I suppose I can't remember. There was the guy who was running the coach trip to Calais every few months. He was an inspector then,
Really.
and
I suppose you
every
could say you have to switch off. Um, so you need some relief from the general public. But
yeah,
how how would you rate the police force at that time you were there as a whole, just out of interest, in terms of service?
pretty good actually. It was work hard, play hard. Then
Right.
I think that was important. I think the job got done. I think it's gone downhill because of other reasons. But I do remember quite a lot of flexibility because the West End of London is very well policed anyway. So if somebody was off, it was sort of cover for them, if that makes sense. I needed another day off or whatever, so it was quite flexible that way. I think the job got done, but I think there's a little bit of maybe early people were a bit slow, maybe a bit hungover, but it did get done. And I don't see that people were let down by any particular incidents. It just seemed to be the culture of heavy drinking, binge drinking, days off, that sort of thing.
Right.
And a lot of people don't mess with it. I mean,
Hello,
you couldn't be
Steve. Sorry, what did you say?
you couldn't be drinking at work because you'd soon be found out. Another CID did. That was part of the game, really. That was their excuse. We need to see informants in pubs. That's where informants are, isn't it? Information, that
Oh, I
sort of thing.
see. Yeah, yeah. You have to drink with them, kind of thing. Be part of the
Yeah.
gang.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that was allowed back in the day and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would
I mean,
imagine it
back
would
in
be
the
now.
day as well, you could also sleep with informants, wasn't there? There was loads of those sort of cases as well.
Yeah, these units. That's I never did that, but I think I don't think you were sort of allowed to see. I think just that happened as a matter of course because there are certain units that just are undercover full time. Um, I mean, I
Okay.
used to know a guy who was on the football intelligence unit. He was there for years, and he rarely surfaced, to be fair, but just gather intelligence and feed it back.
Yeah.
Specialist units.
Excuse me.
So,
The
but me, it's part of the game, part of the normal life to have a few drinks after work.
Yeah, but one leads to another and another and all that sort of jazz, isn't it? I've had many interviews with functional alcoholics and drug addiction and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. Drug addiction, that sort of stuff. The and workplace functioning people and that sort of thing. And
Awesome.
I think most people can relate. Most people can relate to it in some way, shape, or form. I mean, if you look at the amount of units that governments say that if you have more than this amount per week or whatever, you're perhaps drinking too much, then it's only a short measure before they say that you're an alcoholic.
Of course. Yeah, it's easy to drift into it. It's and nobody actually knows when you cross that line. To me, I think that it's a habit which becomes an addiction. I don't think it's a genetic thing at all. I think if you drink, then go from social drinking to moderate to heavy drinking, and you move from
Yeah,
heavy drink to when you've got problems, financially or relationship-wise or work-wise. When you start taking days off and things because you're not well with it, then you've got a problem. Yeah.
yeah. And this is what we're leading into on this episode is talking about this bit. This is the most important bit. This is what Steve wants to talk about. The So Steve, from this point, from this point, um, you realised that there was a problem. You knew there's a problem, but
Yeah.
you didn't know how to address it.
Yeah, I knew had a problem, and I came back from London for a few days holiday towards sort of the end of my service, really, and I decided just to stop drinking, and I stopped suddenly, and ended up staying with my parents for a few days, and I ended up having a seizure, which was incredibly frightening, to be fair, and I was in the high street. Somebody called an ambulance. I had this seizure. I didn't know what happened to me. I knew I felt unwell, not having a drink. So, by that time, I was drinking quite regularly, as in every day. And later on the day, when I got my parents, I said to my dad, I've got to go back to the hospital. I've got to go to the hospital because I signed a disclaimer not to go. This first seizure, and another seizure apparently on the way to hospital. Next thing I remember was waking up uh, um, with 4 or 5 doctors around me. So it's very dangerous to stop. And from that point, I got medication. I knew I had a massive problem then. Massive problem.
Yeah. So people, just to understand, seizures, basically you can die from seizures. And what people don't realize is that you cannot, alcohol is such an evil disease, in my opinion. The is that basically if you suddenly stop drinking, your body doesn't understand that um that that basically what's going on. And the reaction is generally seizures if you quit. And it's so dangerous. So
It's
dangerous. The only
chemically
the
dependent.
yeah, the only way you can do it is slowly, cheeky monkey, or through medication. Um, if you
Problem with
did,
the medication, I can't get it now.
pardon,
I can't get the medication now from GPs. That's a big issue.
right, we can talk about
If
that. But
you do that.
basically, um,
Yeah.
if I mean, I understand it to be that you need to reduce 5% a week, which is actually not a lot.
It takes quite a
The,
while.
and
Just
it
tapering,
say that again, Steve. Sorry.
taper off it slowly if you
Yeah,
can.
and then if, for example, you go into hospital, they medicate you for like 5 or 6 days. No, it's not
Yeah.
even that long, actually, is it? The and to get you off the alcohol addiction, but then you end up with hallucinations, all sorts of stuff. Um,
Delusion
the,
tremors.
yeah, and this is retail products. It's not as if you're buying drugs off a drug dealer. You're buying
Oh,
alcohol.
it's all legal. It's more available than ever before.
Yeah,
You go to a filling station, 24-hour filling station, sell booze 24 hours a day.
it's actually motorway service stations as well now.
Crackers, isn't it? And you can get, well, obviously since COVID, you've got all these other delivery services, Uber Eats and Just Eat, and they'll bring booze to you as well.
I heard that. Yeah, I don't use
That's
those sort of services anyway. But the
horrific. The amount of problems are on the media coverage about, people are drinking less is nonsense. I was in York on Saturday. And I did a little video on my YouTube channel actually about this pub called the Dublin that just over the bridge. It was packed with young people drinking. People were drinking on the train on the way down at 11 o'clock in the morning. Young girls with, wine from the neck, the bottom of the bottle. Guys who were drunk at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning at the railway station. Young people I'm talking about, 18, 17, 18, 19. So it's horrific what's going on with alcohol. It'll get worse as well.
well, I mean, the one thing I noticed, I had a meeting at the on just after, so I think it was April Fool's Day,
Yeah.
at the local Weatherspoons, right? I could not find a place to sit down to have a chat with somebody, right? The reason being it was payday, just before then, and it was packed. And
Price that's so cheap, isn't it?
yeah, but also I think the biggest problem is that everybody's so stressed and they look forward to that payday and going to that pub or nightclub or whatever.
No doubt. Yeah, yeah. And this feeling got worse with people, isn't it? Life's getting more and more difficult, and I think people are reaching for the bottom more.
Yeah.
I did work with the NHS, a local hospital. I spoke to a specialist liver nurse, and she said that, I mean, liver cirrhosis, which I had, but still got some scarring, used to present between the ages of 50 and 60. It's now presenting in people 30 to 40, 30 to 35 because of the strength of alcohol. It was different in my day when beer was maybe 4%. Some of these ciders are 6, 7, 8, 10%. So it's a massive problem, huge problem, and it's out of control, to be fair. And like you say, it's legal, isn't it?
Yeah. It's big
Illegal.
taxes, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's big government revenue from the tax, but it's certainly too available, it's too widely used, and it's too acceptable as well, isn't it?
I'm not too sure about early drinking. But in terms of drinking generally, yeah, I think it is socially acceptable. It's not as acceptable doing a line of coke. That's not really, most people wouldn't accept that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's only the only thing you give up when people will question you, why don't you drink? Why don't you just have one? But unless you've been affected by it, you're an alcoholic, problem drinker, you still got to explain to people you can't have one because it will lead to more. One and two and so on. And even after many years of sobriety, 8 years I was sober. Between 2006, 2014, I had a one, and then within a week after that, I was back to square one again, drinking 24 hours a day. It's very addictive. They can pull you back straight in.
Okay, here you go. Here's a statistic here that I've just researched. Um, Out of 14,350 to children spoken to under the age of 18,
Yep.
girls are more likely to become victims of substance and alcohol abuse than it is boys. Data suggests, indicates that girls in a group are more likely than boys to report early onset of misuse, mental health, and needs, and leading to self-harm.
Yeah, really bad. Yeah, it's not getting better, is it? Another statistic actually for women, liver disease, deaths from liver disease increased 35% in females last 5 years, which is a massive increase.
That
Because
kind of makes sense, though, right? In terms of like women want to be like macho like men. Men have different physiques, don't they? They can handle it more than women.
the liver's not, female's liver isn't as robust as a man's for start.
Oh, is
Uh,
that
you know,
is that the case? Is it? Oh,
yeah, that's one of the things. But women tend to women tend to start drinking heavily older, but have more issues quicker than men.
right.
So
Okay.
a lot of
My
research been
mum,
done.
my mum died young through alcoholism. She's only
Right,
like 60. She died, and my auntie died at 57, and that's through cider.
right. That tends to be about the age of that. You rarely see an elderly alcoholic because it will just take your system down. So destructive. It's not just out the liver. You've got pancreatitis. You've got other cancers linked to it. Your heart attacks. Because it obviously raises your blood pressure. And strokes and accidents, depression, suicides, all sorts of things linked to it. It's
Yeah.
very divisive.
Well,
It's
no, it
very
is. It's like it's a depressant, isn't it? Alcohol.
100%, yeah, depression drug. And when I look back, this is very short-term gain for a very long-term pain. In the end, when you've got a problem with it, you don't enjoy drinking. You're just doing it to try and feel normal again.
Mm.
When this cycle starts of drinking, falling asleep, waking up, panicking because you haven't got enough stock, and the anxiety of not having enough beer to, have one in the morning. I mean, most people wouldn't believe me. I couldn't have a glass of water or a cup of tea. I had to have a drink first before I could even move. It's a can of beer by the bed. It's incredible how many issues people have with it. It's very
So
widespread.
when you were in a relationship, did you used to hide bottles and all that sort of stuff?
Oh yeah, yeah. When I was married, there was bottles all over the place. Well, I wasn't a spirit drinker. It was quite difficult for me to hide all the bottles of beer in cans. So if we ever went on holiday or travelled anywhere, I mean, in the UK, I used to have to put bottles inside socks and all sorts. You couldn't calculate. I mean, I lived in Epping Forest. I used to put beer in Epping Forest, dig a hole, and put a bin liners there in the garage, in the back of the car, underneath the spare tyre, everywhere, everywhere. And it's a full-time job. You've got to hide it all. Then I was trying to intercept the credit card receipts, credit card statements, bank statements, all
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Trying to get over the hangover. I put as much effort into drinking, recovering from drinking, hiding drink, than I did. If I'd put that much effort into a business, I'd be a multi-millionaire. I spent more
Nuts,
time
isn't
doing
it?
that. That's it's madness, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get obsessed by it. And once the anxiety hits, and you think, I haven't got enough drink tomorrow, just in case I run out. I mean, I do, as I say, I help a lot of people, and people from all walks of life come to me for help. From pilots, bin men, and market traders, doctors. And it doesn't discriminate. It'll take anybody down. very
Yeah.
quickly. So difficult to give it up. It really is. You know, my advice is not touch it at all, but most people will try it. Most people will go for it.
And so you're 6 years clean,
Yeah.
right? And what was your catalyst to get clean?
The last time, well, I was 8 years sober, then I went back on it for 5. Now, the reason that was 2014. I started drinking again within a week of starting drinking. After 8 years clean, I was hooked again, and I went back to the doctors to try and get some medication called diazepam. It basically stops withdrawals, and they refused me twice. And so I self-medicated alcohol 2014 to 2019. In the end, I was taken by emergency ambulance to hospital in Newcastle, and I was 9 stone then. I lost all my muscle mass. I'd been out for weeks. It's going to be delivered, and I was basically told I was very well less than 50-50 chance of survival. And after being there for about 2 weeks, a doctor came up to me and he said, "I guarantee if you drink again, you'll be dead in 6 months." So I had no option then to stop. But I still think I wonder what it's like to have just one. That little voice comes up in your head. I want to say just to have one, because a lot of people will relapse even after that
It's
warning.
weird, isn't it, though, Steve? That little voice, that little devil on your shoulder.
Yeah. I don't think
It does exist, though. It does exist.
I think addiction, alcohol addiction in particular, it can't be cured. It can just be managed. I had a friend of mine who was in hospital a very similar time. He was told not to drink again, and he did. He died 2 years later. People who had liver transplants have drunk again and died very quickly.
Mm.
You know, we're doing something which harms us because our brains tricks. I want to be part of the gang again. I've got this fear of missing out. These different factors. The truth of the matter is, if you're an alcoholic or a problem drinker, you can't have any.
Mm. Do you
Zero.
believe that? You can't, you cannot basically drink whatsoever.
No, never. I
Okay.
would never touch. God.
What is that carte blanche that everybody basically that's gone through alcoholism, like yourself, they can't
Yeah,
drink anymore?
I would say so. Personally, I know I can't. And if you do, most people I know who've started again have ended up in a big mess or passed away.
Yeah, yeah. I can tell a story for the listeners, the of someone I knew who was a prolific alcoholic, very young. He died at the age of 39. He lost his leg at 36 through alcoholism. I think it's gout and alcoholism. And I saw him in the hospital and he was on his deathbed. He was like something like 7 stone. And his brother was with me in the hospital at the time, and he was still asking for one final drink.
Horrendous
And
addiction.
he died a week later.
It's awful isn't it, to see that. Oh, well, I spent a lot of time in hospital, as I said, over COVID. Um, just over 2 years in and out. It was difficult for them to fix me, basically. And a lot of people died in that ward, coming and going. I sort of got to know, because you do talk to people when you're there for a long period of time. Not because of more drink, just gone too far. I was very lucky to get back to where I am now. Very lucky indeed. Because I just about crossed the line. Maybe another 2 or 3 weeks of drinking. Fortunately, I got to the hospital just in time. I think I certainly wouldn't be here if I'd kept on drinking. No chance.
No. All right, we've only got a few minutes left. The Steve, let's talk about what you've been doing since and what you're doing now. So we've got 3 minutes.
Yeah, well, at the moment, I'm running a YouTube channel called Stephen Alcohol Free Lifestyle, Stephen with a V. There's a lot of subscribers on there, about 17,000. I do live streaming on there as well. And there's over 2,000 videos, which is helping a lot of people. I do one-to-one mentoring and support as well. I've managed to get a lot of people off the booze. And more importantly, to stay off the booze. I think that's very important to realize that relapse is probably the biggest killer. Because when you've had a period off it, every time you relapse, it gets worse. It gets much more difficult to stop, much harder to come off it again. The key is not to relapse. And I've got a little ebook out, Get Sober, Stay Sober as well. So I'm helping a lot of people. And I enjoy doing it because it's, for me, to get a message from somebody to say, you saved my son's life is incredible. So from being on death's door, I managed to turn things completely round and hopefully I'm saving some lives. With my experience, of course, which was not a good experience, I have to say. You know, you're lying in a hospital bed thinking, I'm going to die. And you've been in a position of strength and responsibility, then you're so vulnerable when you're in hospital. You're getting a porter to push you around, and you're 9 stone in weight, thinking you're going to, pass away. So it's been quite a success, that. And I'm here to help. And if anybody wants any help, get in touch.
Have you got a website address as well?
Stephen Curry, .co.uk. But the best way is through
Repeat that again. That didn't come through quite clearly.
StephenCurry.co.uk.
StephenCurry.co.uk.
The best contact is really through the YouTube, Stephen Alcohol Free Lifestyle. If you Google Stephen Alcohol Free Lifestyle, it comes all over the place. And if you need help, advice, please get in touch.
And what is really, really exciting that you're joining us as part of Dreamcatcher Radio to share your knowledge, which I'm so much looking forward to.
Me too. It's a fantastic platform, and good presenters, and yourself. It's very innovative, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it and helping people, and doing some broadcasts and getting some guests on as well.
Yes, very much so. Okay, Steve, do you want to do your second song? Final song.
I'm going to play "Heroes" by David Bowie.
Okay, we're going to play that now.
I wish I could swim like dolphins can swim.